Welcome to the Evolution Learning Show, a podcast focused on deep and real conversations with everyday students and the road towards independence. We all want to live a life with a purpose, not just any life, but our own life. And here's your host, co-founder of Evolution Learning, Sam Kwong.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Sam Kwong here, and in today's episode we have Omar Metwali, a Calgary High School graduate that consistently challenges himself by learning and growing himself in everything that he does. Having a great attitude is also part of his equation. Omar joined the Evolution Learning community in 2018 and is currently finishing his undergraduate studies in accounting. He already has a professional working experience at two publicly traded oil and gas energy companies, Plains Midstream Canada and CNOOC. This ultimately provided him the financial ability to move out and gain additional independence in carving out a life of his own. If you want to learn more about the tips and tricks that Omar and community shares, this is the episode to turn into. Follow and subscribe to our channel for weekly content, but for now, sit back and enjoy the show. We're going live in 3, 2, 1. Omar Metwali, I'm super excited today that I'm talking to you. You powered through high school, now through university grad. You're very special to us, at least to Evolution Learning as well. You're one of our tutor mentors as well, and we very much appreciate that. How are things going today?
Well, things are going great. I'm really happy to be here on this podcast with you, Sam, and really happy to be part of the Evolution Learning community. It feels great to be here and looking ready to get started.
Well, hey, this is one of our first, it's, I'm thinking back right now. We do a lot of teaching, we do a lot of tutoring, we do a lot of hand holding, but we've never had a heart to heart like this before. So I'm getting a little emotional already, but I think we can do this, right?
I'm looking forward to this as well. It's with Evolution Learning and what we're all about. We're all about trying new things and seeing ideas and making the best we can do. And really excited to be here right now and looking forward to that positive change that we bring.
Well, hey, your evolution, your personal evolution, rather, I should say, excuse me, is, not something to take lightly as well. So I guess for a lot of our listeners and even for myself, right, tell us a little bit about who Omar Metwali really is, interests, hobbies, anything interesting, all the crazy stuff that goes on be inside that noggin.
Yeah, well, just a little bit about me. I'm a third year, currently going through a co-op program right now. Student at the University of Calgary, studying at the Haskayne School of Business. Currently in accounting, so just going through that program and whatnot. But fortunately, I've been able to take a year off for work. It's been great so far. I've been really busy, but I've been learning a lot and just going back to evolution, just within, the 3 weeks I've been working with CNOOC, I've just seen myself grow as such a person. And even like in my career, I've seen myself grow. In terms of some of my interests and hobbies, it ranges from everything that enjoys doing, like going to the gym. I like to talk about cars, video games, a whole wide spectrum of everything. But really, I've been getting into hiking a little bit. Um,
hmm
it's been pretty good so far, the trails that I went on, and yeah, really enjoying everything that's going on this summer, and just happy to be here right now.
And Omar, I really want to pick your brain because as you're introducing yourself here and giving me more or shedding more light, I'm always very curious. And I think what I'm curious about is that you seem like there's no trick behind, everyone just has 24 hours in a day. But how are you fitting everything all in? It seems like you're running laps on us here, right? How do you manage everything?
It comes back to a lot of time management, and I know that's something that's brought up a lot. It's topic brought up with high school students and even university students, the concept with how do we manage our time and how are we most effective with the 24 hours in my day. When it comes down to it, I really just put things on a hierarchy of importance. So for 8 or 9 hours a day, I'm working, and from after that, I say to myself, well, with the time I have until I go to sleep, I want to enjoy my time and I want to take
Hmm.
the time to relax and get things done. So from that point, I put things in a hierarchy, and from most important to least important. If I need to get chores done around the house, I'm gonna get chores done around the house. If you find that the chores are taken care of one day and tomorrow I can go hang out. So it's a lot of mix matching between the different things going on in my life, and I guess it's a matter of importance or what I deem important. So if let's say that I'm super tired and I don't want to do any chores around the house, I'll take a break and I'll go hang out with my friends. I'm gonna go have a good
Yeah.
time. It's sunny outside. Let's enjoy the time, right? Really
Yeah.
just comes down to what I feel is most important at that specific period
Chore,
of time.
chores are the least important, okay, Omar? Chores are the no, but here's what like. I'm actually curious, right? So when you say you rank it on level of importance, right? To you, what is important and how would you rank that and what is the least important? And the only reason why I ask you this question, Omar, is because think of it this way. From what I know of you, not only are you a university student in a pretty difficult program to be in. Accounting's not easy. It requires a lot of studying as well. You're working with us at Evolution Learning, and tutoring and mentorship is not easy as well, because the time and energy it takes to have one-to-one connection, and you're teaching something and you're providing that high quality level of service is difficult as is. And now you're working at a publicly traded company, right? CNOOC as well, oil and gas energy company. And then, as you're talking about your hobbies, I'm like, what hobbies? Like, do you still have time? And so, yeah, I go back to that question, right? Like, so prioritization, because I feel like here's the thing, Omar. Yes, you're in university, but there's so much to learn here, because I get a sense that your time management, your prioritization is really, working really well. And I think not just our student community, but anyone could really benefit from that. So how, what's important to Omar, right? What's the most important, the least important, or walk us through that, mental framework.
Well, I think the best way to put it, right? Like, what's most important to me as an individual? And it really just boils down to taking care of my, at the time, I think it takes care of my mental needs, if it comes down to it where I'm super stressed one day and, all this work that's going on, and how do I prioritize my time? Well, I think to myself, well, I do want to enjoy myself and I do want to relax. But if I see something that needs to get done and it's pretty urgent, I want to take care of it and I want to get it done. Because to me, in my mind, that's something that will make me feel better, that I have accomplished something. That's always something that goes through my head whenever I feel like I've accomplished something, whenever I do something for others. I always feel a sense of happiness. Like, I can even go back and tell you last year, when I first started working Revolution Learning, I had a student that required a lot of my time. Like, I'd be going to work for 8 hours and then be mentoring her almost every day for 3 hours. And
Yeah.
mentally, that can get pretty exhausting. But at the end of the 3 hour session, you really feel a sense of like almost rejuvenation. Like, you've helped someone at like, accomplish something. And to me, that's something that really makes me feel good about myself. And it's kind of like a mental boost. But I'm not a machine and I do need to take a break. So, um, on days where I do have time to relax, I really dedicate those hours to relaxing and spending time with my family, with my friends, and all that atmosphere of people who are really close to me and who are special to me. And that's also rejuvenating to me. And being able to spend that time outside is also really important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what it comes down to is how does it make me feel, um, and how things make me feel. I think is a big aspect of my life and how I manage my time. And if it makes me feel like I'm tired and I want to take a break, I'm going to go take a break. If I feel like I can do a little bit more and I can push myself, I'll push myself a little bit more and really take myself, to that point where I finally feel good about doing something and then move on to the next task. So a lot of it's a very mental kind of mental kind of game.
No, this is really awesome and it's enlightening. And you brought up family as well. So Omar, like walk me through like what was life growing up? Did you, obviously this skill set, right? I'm imagining that you probably started with it at a younger age or it developed over time, but walk me through here, right? So, you're in university now. Omar growing up, let's say from elementary, junior high, to high school, what was life like at home, right? Siblings, parents, what was that all like?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of my early life growing up, I grew up with a family. My parents both immigrated from Egypt, and so from an early age, I was instilled with hard work ethics, mainly because they grew up, in low income, families at the time. Money was
Mm-hmm.
tight, and things needed to be done. So, a lot of their life surrounded around education and making sure that you were, at the top of your class and making sure that you were properly educated and just being the best that you could, possibly be. So that's how I was raised. I was raised to work, like try your hardest and do the best you can, because my parents, especially my dad's, always stressed me that you need to work as hard as you can, and the work that you put into is the results that you get out of it. And really, that's something I take to heart, because anytime I've actually really, really put my mind into something and I've worked really hard and I've tried my absolute best, usually I do get the results I'm looking out of it. And even if I don't, it's still motivation for me to push further. And I know that something better will be coming if I don't get what I was initially looking for. There will always be something that's better than what I initially thought of. So a lot of my early life was very education driven. Um, a lot of it as well, my parents put me in a lot of sports to keep me physically active and really make me a well-rounded person like they were. My parents both enjoyed physical activity when they were young. My dad especially loved to run around in the beach a lot when he was young, and told me that he was really physically active, so that was something that he wanted to pass down to me. Again, a
No
lot
wonder
of
you
it.
got the beach body, all right, Omar. You got the beach bod genetics.
Oh man, I'm flattered. I'm flattered. But no, a lot of it really boils down from that kind of realm, where it's a lot of hard work, due diligence, work ethic, making sure you're trying the hardest you can do, and really trying to be the best you can be, and really improve yourself as a person. A lot of it is, again, being the best person you can be at that specific point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, as you're describing that too, because here's the thing, obviously, with evolution learning, we work with a lot of students, but who are the ones behind those students? A lot of parents, right? And I was actually thinking as you were speaking here when you said, hey, a lot of my childhood was, my parents wanting me, excuse me, to be the top of the class. And at least even in my own experiences, right, I know that that can be somewhat stressful at times, right? Because as you're going through, junior high, high school, and even university, being on the quote unquote top of your class is not the easiest thing. You still have to balance your social life. You're still trying to balance, like, oh, hey, am I going to get a job or not, right? And so I guess my question here is, what were there any stressful times for you? And even in your family, right? For do you, if you have siblings as well, what's your family like? Was there stressful times growing up at all, or was it all sunshine rainbows, or what was that like?
No, it's definitely not all sunshine rainbows. A lot of my life growing up, a lot of my struggles growing up mainly had to deal with it was sometimes there was a lack of focus. I noticed that sometimes I wasn't very motivated to really do anything, because I'd always have it where my parents were always the ones that were going to push me to do it anyways. So a lot of it was,
Mhm.
I don't have to really motivate myself because my parents are going to do it, right? And I really didn't wake up to that reality until I got to high school, because a lot of my high school was kind of like, oh, whatever, it's high school, it's you do the work, you hand it in, it's repetitive day after day. I didn't really feel motivated to actually do anything. Um, but once I got to grade 11, my grades were pretty good. But going into the first semester of grade 11, where I really took a hard dip, like
Mhm.
it was it was a lot of stress, but I never opened up about it. I was taking Bio 20 IB, and I was taking a bunch of other really hard courses. And at the time, I was insanely stressed with bio, and I would, take out the stress by wasting more time and procrastinating and hanging out more often with my friends. So
Yeah.
it really was just a cycle and not working on actually, on the stress. It was just round and around of nothing kind of. So so after coming out of bio, and seeing my marks in my, the first half of the semester, I really, really just said to myself, I need to say something. And a lot of it, when you're coming from a background of parents who've immigrated from, another country, they expect you to get top marks. So when I told them about my marks,
Yeah.
they weren't very happy with them. So I understand that this is a fear that a lot of people that are in my situation have, where if you tell them that that you're not doing too good in school, your parents might get angry at you.
Mm-hmm.
And they were angry at first, but after we talked about it a little bit more, we started developing a plan to actually help me succeed going forward. And that's one thing I really appreciate about my parents, where they're never the type to blame you on something. They'll always try and find a solution to the problem. They're not going to say, "Oh, it's your fault." They're going to be like, "Okay, I know you messed up, but how are we going to get through this, and how are we going to improve you?" So what we ended up doing, I said I could no longer be in bio IB. I just had to leave. That program wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, since then, my outlook has been way better. I think that was almost a turning point where I actually started enjoying high school, because I finally knew that my parents actually had my back, and they weren't just, give me the marks. They actually wanted to see me understand what I was learning in school and be a better person. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what really got me through the rest of high school, and what motivated me to succeed and really just get into university, and again just start living a new chapter from that point on. It really opened my eyes to high school, and you know being like, again, like, if you're in a tough situation, the best thing that you can do is try and find a solution for your problems and not run away from the stress. I think that's really important, and that's what I try and teach my students in every lesson. I always say, let's find a solution to the issue, and let's see if we can get this done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, this is really awesome. And I think you took a page out of your parents' book, like them not giving up on you. It seems like it trickles down, right, to your work as well when you're working with students. And I would say even bigger than that, like now that you're working in the corporate world, right? What do you do at the office? They hire you and bring you on to solve problems, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like you have that work ethic, attitude, and grit now to say, hey, yeah, we have a solution. Let's put in some patience and time and work to figure it out, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
And so, for Omar, like, I guess that was, life for you. Any siblings at all for you?
Yeah, so I do have one sister.
Okay.
She's 2 years younger than me, and she's currently attending the University of Waterloo. She's on the opposite end of me, so she's taking engineering. But
Mm,
a lot of her, actually, I would say that we're both pretty different people. I would say
mm-hmm.
that her understanding of the world is a lot more competitive compared to me. I'm more of a teamwork oriented kind of person, but she's very competitive. So growing up, it's whenever I did something, she would try and do it, but better.
One of
So
those relationships. I get it. Keep going. I'm very
yeah.
interested in this because
So
yeah.
even we went to the same high school, and I graduated. I did pretty decently. I got decent marks, but she saw that and took it further and became the valedictorian of the school.
What?
So yeah, no, it
Of
was
which high
crazy.
school? Yeah.
Sir Winston Churchill. So it's a
That is
feat.
a
Like
competitive high school
Churchill.
as well. Churchill is a very academic high school, and she was able to
Oh
be the
yeah.
valedictorian of which year?
Sh- of the year 2019. So she graduated last year, and no, I
Wow.
was really proud of her, because Churchill is
Mhm.
definitely not an easy school to go through. The IB program is way harder than a lot of other IB programs in other high schools. And I think that school, it's very competitive, and people really are there to be top of the top, the way that
How
I see it.
I should know I mean, every school's different. Like, how do you become the valedictorian these days? Do you
I
know?
think a lot of it, it mainly boils down to your extracurriculars and how your progress in school. You
Hmm.
know, I actually appreciate these days how when I looked at my sister, what she was doing in Churchill, she wasn't just book smart. You know, she was getting really high grades, but she was also very focused and competitive with the sport she was playing. She's currently in pentathlon, so she does
Hmm.
horseback riding, I think it was shooting, running, swimming, and fencing. So,
What?
okay, if you can imagine, yeah, it's and she would. I don't think she's done much horseback riding, but she's. I strictly remember her
Wow.
going
Hmm.
to the Talisman Center, the rest ball center, almost 4 to 5 times a week, like every single day. I think maybe four, and she was there maybe for 2 hours a night, and it was absolutely crazy. She was just working hard on everything that she did, and she still found time to hang out with her friends. So I was blown away. I don't think I could have done that, but
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
that's just her kind of personality. Just very hard, go getting kind of person.
Yeah. And no, as you're telling that story, well, the reason why you see I'm smiles too is because, here's the thing, right? It's friendly competition, but like I was second oldest. So to give you some information, Omar, I have three brothers. I'm the second oldest. I have an older brother and then two younger ones, right? Younger ones are super smart. My older one, because we're the closest in age. So just to give you a breakdown, the older one is 1 year older. The third one is 3 years younger, and then the fourth one is 5 years younger, right? And
Okay.
so
Yep.
you hear me stuttering, I'm losing track. Like, I don't even know how my mom remembers all of us, right?
Yeah.
And so we were always super competitive, but at the same time, it's like we're always seeking like for our parents' validation. It's like
Mm, mm,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, Mark, my oldest brother did this. Oh yeah, what about this Mark? Hey, I got 98, right? And you
Yeah.
only show the good marks,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
my older brother would always be way better than me at cooking, or we'd be in cadets, right? And this guy would have the best, um, call it the best process procedure, and he would follow the regiment. When you're going into
Yeah.
cadets or the military and those things, you need to follow the orders, right? Sometimes you
Mm,
give orders as well. Just doing a lot of things well. And then it kind of made me feel like, oh, it's almost like you feel shitty, but it's your brother at the same time. And it's like this mix of envy, jealous, anger, happiness, all mushed up into one. And the feeling is good because now when you look back, it was like, okay, Sam, you were just envious and jealous. But I think for you, Omar, to know that your sister was the valedictorian, I sense that you're happy. But was there a time where you're like, wow, she's the smart one of the family, and because you're the older one too, right? So you're like,
yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
the numbers don't add up here, right? But were there times where you're like, having a sibling where clearly she's overpowering, right? You
Oh
know,
yeah, definitely. Like, even when we were children, we were both in the University of Calgary swim club, and I was not nearly as fast as her. She was very quick, and it came to the point where during practices, the coaches would put us in different lanes, and she would consistently always be in the top, the fastest lane, and I was stuck at the bottom. So
you're
there.
still on aqua tots, aqua tots,
Yeah.
the first level,
Carrying around
swimming.
the little children, yeah. No, it was way, like, way out of
Yeah.
my league, and my parents would always push me to, go faster, but a lot of it was just the motivation wasn't there. I cared too much at the time. But, looking at it now, when we're older, I think me and my sister have just gone through two different paths. So I don't really see competition anymore. I really mainly see, like, how can I help her and how can she help me, that
Hmm.
kind of thing. Where when I saw her become valedictorian, I was super proud of her, but not really jealous because I was happy that she actually got to the top of Churchill. And second, I was working full time at Plains Midstream, so I had my own life too, and really didn't concern me too much.
No, that's awesome. And I think that camaraderie too, especially with siblings, ends up being better. And here's the thing, all siblings do argue and fight, but essentially, through it all, they're really just trying to help each other eventually, right? They realize it's like, okay, why am I fighting you? Right? It's I should be
Yeah,
with
no,
you, not against you,
yeah,
right? And so
exactly.
that's good. So Omar, pivoting here a little bit, as you know, evolution learning, we're really all about creating a world sustained by people working towards their passion. What does that really mean? It's allowing to develop not only ourselves, students, having parents be able to see this as well, that we're a community that we all really want to do something and live a life with purpose, not just any life, but our own life. And part of that equation is our road to independence. And so I want to dive into independence a little here. When was it the first time that you felt like you were independent? And also, do you even feel like you're independent now? Walk me through that.
So the first time I felt true independence, I think it's more as of recent. I'll be honest with you. So
Hmm.
a lot of my
Hmm.
life, especially when you're growing up in a Muslim slash Arab household, there's a lot of dependence actually on the parents.
Yeah.
A lot of
Why
it
do you say
is
that? Hmm.
Well, a lot of it is you're living at home, your parents will cook for you, clean for you, clean after you. And a lot of it was my parents did a lot of the chores in the house, from time to time. I would do the laundry or, clean around the house and help them. But a lot of it was very traditional kind of, mom does the cooking, dad does the shopping, all that kind of stuff. It was split between them, and from time to time I would help them, but it wasn't truly, I felt like, a good
No,
amount
you
of
no, you wouldn't,
independence from
right?
my parents.
No, you
Yeah,
wouldn't. It was once a month,
very
right,
rarely,
Omar?
on the very rare occasion,
All right.
once a month, yeah, not too
Okay.
often. Well, again, right, it was again back to
I
the,
get it.
very dependent on my parents. But I think, yeah, it's common for a lot of people as well, where they kind of just live at home, and they're just living at home per se. But I think as of recently, I recently moved out my own. Well, I'm renting my own apartment, and it
Hmm.
and it feels good. Honestly, I do feel happy. Being alone and actually being to manage my life and having to be like, okay, so I need to do groceries. I need to clean my apartment. I need to always make sure that my bed is done every day. And
Hmm.
that's really important. I really didn't care too much about my bed being done until, as of recent, where I'm starting to really care more about what's going on in my house and making sure that it's always clean and making sure that, I'm happy living in an area where I can call, you know, um, and a lot of it where you're living alone, it really gives you the independence and the motivation to really start doing these things and start, um, taking matters into your own hands rather than being dependent on your parents to clean for you, because you would always almost expect them to do something when really, you know, when you're living alone, you have to do it, because it's if it doesn't get done, then it's on you.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like the true independence, I'm starting to feel it where I actually have to start relying on myself, and I have to start cooking for myself. A lot of these new skills I'm developing by myself, and it actually I feel really happy. I feel that you know, um, taking things into my own hands, and it really has bolstered how I feel about myself, and really took my self confidence to a whole new level where I'm getting these things done, and I can't believe I'm actually doing it, kind of deal.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's been awesome. It's been great motivator, and helps me to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. And so Omar, like you could have kept living, at home, right? And as you're telling that story, I'm just thinking about it because I think what you're saying, or what I'm hearing, is that it's so easy to be dependent, right? Because when your parents are around, you get into this lifestyle where you're so comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you're like, oh yeah, the dishes are going to be done. Oh yeah, this is going to be done. I'm just going to focus on studying, right? But then until you realize where you move out, you're like, oh shoot, I have to do laundry. Otherwise, I'm not going to have underwear. And like, I'm making a point here about underwear because I've traveled to, quite a few countries, right? And when you start to travel, you understand what's the most important, thing to you, right? And so, when you travel, you obviously have to pack light, but the most important thing I realized is your underwear, you
Yeah.
know? Like, well, it's like it never hit me where I was like, I was bringing a lot of pair of shoes and things, and I was like, why do I need 8 pairs of shoes? Right? I remember my first time traveling and I was like, why do I need 8 pairs of shoes? But you
Mm.
definitely need 8 pair of underwear, right?
Yeah, you
One
do.
one for every day and then one extra just in case anything happens is my rule. Right? So,
Exactly. No, I'm honestly with you 100%. Yeah. Like
mhm,
making sure that again everything is organized and everything is clean. It gives you that it's a good feeling. I don't know how else to explain it, but it feels
mhm.
good.
So what pushed you over the edge, Omar? Like what actually, what was the voice inside of your head that was like, you know what? I'm ready to move out. And what I'm getting at here is because usually when people want to move out, your parents might miss you. You might be getting some pushback there. Um, you know, Going back to that first question, what was the tipping point for you? And then I guess the second question is, were your parents even okay with it? How did they take it?
Mm. So the tipping point for me was I just needed to, I guess, find myself and really
Mm-hmm.
living at home. It was really I always put it this way. I was talking to my friend one night,
Mm-hmm.
and this was back in high school, and I was really like, it wasn't a really like back then I wasn't really in the best mindset. I was really just wanting to get through high school, just studying, not really happy with myself. um wasn't really a good time for myself. And I told my friend, I said to him, look, I think I'm living inside of a box right now. Like, I didn't know how else to explain it. I just said, imagine yourself and you're living within inside the confines of your own mind and you just don't want to branch out or try anything new. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember telling him that I was totally okay with living inside of a box. And looking back at it now, I just I feel like I've grown way past that to the point where like what is pushing me is the fact that there's I know there's better things in my life because I'm working towards achieving those goals. I always have something in mind that I want to improve on myself. And I didn't see it back then. Back then I only saw,
Mm-hmm.
short term, very non-significant goals. But I'm thinking more towards how do I make a bigger impact on my community? And reaching out to you and Evolution Learning last year was one of those ways I was able to get outside my box a little bit, get outside
Mm-hmm.
my comfort zone, and actually be able to spread the knowledge that I own with other students.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the apartment, what really tipped me was I wanted to push myself outside of my mental box. I wanted to be even a better person than I already was. I knew that if I was to stay at home working my co-op term for the next 10.5 months, yes, I would have definitely been saving more money, but I wouldn't have been learning any of the lifelong skills I'm gaining today and any of the experiences that I have today. I think that would have been, pushed back even further. And I really wanted to move out so I could learn these new things and really,
Mm-hmm.
grasp at my true identity and who I really am. Who is Omar. And I feel like I just wasn't getting that living at home. I just felt I was way too dependent on my parents to get things done, and I just didn't feel, um, too, I guess, flexible outside my box. It just felt okay living with inside my confines. I was kind of conforming to what I knew. And in terms of my parents, there initially was some pushback, and within
Mm-hmm.
our households, it's really expected that the children is going to live with the parents until they get married, which I really thought was kind of ridiculous, and I just didn't. I just couldn't. I told my mom since March. I told her, I'm interested in moving, and at first, she was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna miss you." But, as time went on, she kind of understood where I was coming from and said, "You know what? Yeah, you should give it a try, honestly, and you should branch out and see what it's like." And my dad honestly was the same way. He was said, "How you could save more money here?" And I said, "But I still feel like I could learn more living alone. I feel like there's more to my life that I could be living,
Yeah.
and learn new skills." And eventually, they were both fine with it. They were just giving me their advice, but at the end of it, I do feel like I have been learning a lot, and I've been,
Mm-hmm.
branching out and just overall felt, more independent, I guess. overall happier, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm. And so is it something that you regret, or is it something where, what you just said, that you're happier and you're glad you did it? Are you still going through struggles right now? Because you moved just recently, right? A month or two ago?
Mhm. I think it was about a month ago. In terms of some of the struggles, I guess living away from your family for the first, 2 or 3 weeks is a bit rough. Not being able to, talk to someone anytime you want.
Mhm.
There's a phone call, but they're not accessible, easily accessible.
Yeah.
Um, but really, I guess that was really it, like the common homesickness. But I just thought, even now, I just think the pros really outweigh the cons. I just feel more independent, and I just feel like I have more control over, what I'm going through every day, and what I'm accomplishing. And I feel like I've done
Mhm.
something I'm proud of and happy of, really.
I'm super happy for you, Omar, because especially where, you're starting to get that feel of independence, and it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a very good feeling, right? And I only say this because, as I'm hearing your story, I'm like, my parents could have been supportive, but they were on the other side, right? So I guess my story here is that I wanted to go on an exchange program in my second year, and I told my parents about it, and the immediate reaction was, "You're not going." And I'm like, "No, I'm going." Like, and then I just went to my room. I'm like, and then we didn't talk about it. And the next thing you know, I'm just like planning this whole escape. And, I planned where I'm like, hey, if I'm going to make this decision myself, I'm going to have to fund it myself. I'm going to have to walk through things. I'm going to make mistakes. But if I make those mistakes, I got to own up to it. Right. I got to work, I got to work through the formula to know what the equation is going to shake out to be, or the answer is going to shake out to be. Right.
Mhm.
And so as I'm going through, it's tough sometimes, because parents, they can be very supportive, like the ones that you're suggesting. And I'm not saying my parents are never supportive, but I also do understand that sometimes parents can also be limitations to letting you out free from the nest to go and try things, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess, I only share that because there's a lot of people sometimes that they go through that difficulty. And I'm actually just sharing my own story, where sometimes if you want something bad enough, you kind of have to go, back yourself into a wall and ask
Mhm.
yourself, how bad do you actually want it? And
Yeah.
if you do, you have to tie in that reasoning with your parents and be like, you know what, this is part of my learning and growth. I'll promise to be healthy and safe, but I would very much love for you to be on that other side to visit me, even if I do go. Right.
Yeah, exactly. It really makes me feel like we're one of the same. We have a very similar mindset, and that's what I appreciate. Like hearing you talk about it, we're both understanding of where we're both coming from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, for now, we might have some differences where we get into a bit of a academic fist fight, right? When we're
Oh
when
yeah,
we're arguing
definitely.
when we're arguing about theories and Newton's 28th law. Um, Omar. So, I think right now I wanted to ask you a little bit about, your journey pivoting from high school to university, because, I think even at Evolution Learning, what we really try to do is prepare a lot of students for that hurdle, right? That hurdle
Hmm.
into the real world. And I want to ask you, Omar, when you were in high school, before you were graduating, or even after slightly a little, what was the biggest stresses for you? Was it,
Hmm.
and take some time to think about that, right? Because there's so many. Was it, trying to fulfill what your parents were wanting grades wise? Was it, you wanted to get into a brand name high school, or university rather? Was it to get a good job? Was it to hang out with your friends? What would you say was the most difficult thing for you?
Hmm. Well, I think the answer that I'm going to give you actually is going to embody a lot of the struggles that students in my circumstance that's had. And just to begin, coming from an Egyptian family, there's a lot of stress on being something that's like top of the line,
Mm-hmm.
engineer, doctor, lawyer, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
when I was transitioning from high school to university, my mindset was I want to make my parents happy. Looking back at it, that was the mindset. That mindset isn't a healthy one to have, and I'm just going to get into that a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
I applied to the University of Calgary, and my first I personally wasn't too keen on doing engineering. My mom was like, "Oh, you're really good at math. Yeah, trust me, you're gonna be really good in it." But I just didn't feel like my heart, was in engineering. I didn't feel it. Um,
Yeah.
so if anything, I decided I want to do something that I enjoy. So I switched my major from engineering to business. And when I applied into university, I eventually got accepted into the business school. My dad was actually really happy that I decided to go into business. He said that it's the future, it's the way things will go, and he had no problems with it. But my mom was a little bit on the iffy side at first because she was an engineer and her family was like
Mm-hmm.
historically a line of engineers. So she was kind of surprised that I decided to take business instead of engineering,
Yeah.
and I think it was when I got my first job, my first summer job in my first year of university, when she really changed her mind, was like, maybe business is actually a really good choice. And
Mm-hmm.
it kind of broadened her horizon to different majors.
Mm-hmm.
And transitioning from university to or from high school to university, I really just wanted to do what I thought would be best for me and not really what was for my parents. At first, it was my parents, but I just said, I'm going to go into engineering and I'm not going to do good. And I'm at this point, if I'm doing it for my parents, I'm going to be really unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to pursue something where I felt that my skills could actually be utilized and where I would be happy going to school every day. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
taking accounting my third year in it, and I'm feeling really good about it. And I really wouldn't change it at all. I'm really happy with where I am right now in that specific field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, this is so awesome. Like you went against the grain there, right, Omar? And
Hmm.
I I highly suggest that every person should do something like that, where that's really when when you know something's wrong and your gut is telling you that, you know, 9 out of 10 times or 10 out of 10 times, right? That gut reaction is the real reaction to how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And so,
Hmm.
and I guess for me, like talking to a lot of students, parents as well, I find a lot of parents, they here's the thing, sometimes they have it backwards or forwards. The intention, though, the intention is good. The intention is that they want their student or their son, rather, or their daughter to be happy, right? They want them to be career driven and successful. And what I'm getting at is that when you started talking about how in your first year you got a job, most parents want them to get into that field so that they can get a job, right?
Hmm.
And the I guess the thought process is that, hey, when you get into a doctor or an engineering, they feel, at least their generation, right, feels that
Hmm.
there's job security
Yep.
there. And everything else, right, is like, no job security or lesser of, right?
Yeah.
And would you say that's true?
I would say so. I definitely would say so. A lot of the main reasoning behind engineering was, I think, a very small portion of it was, oh, my son's an engineer, and the other portion of it is job security.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a status thing and job thing, you know.
Yeah. But see, this is what I tell them, and it's completely true, at least in my opinion. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but this is what I say. Like, I went through accounting school, I got my
Mhm.
CPA, went through all that. Did it teach me something? Yes, 100%. But I had that same reflection that you discussed and talked about very early on. And I was like, what industry do I want to impact? And then I leveled down from that and made a decision tree and said, yes, okay, it's education. What in education do I want to do? And I kept filtering it down all the way to the values, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, I realized I was like, I do not want to do anything different. And tying this back to my exchange program, um, so I went to exchange in Taiwan, in case I didn't tell you about that, in university, and that's when I was doing the studies. But
Mm-hmm.
because I did that, after I graduated, I tried working in accounting and finance, and I realized that I was like, oh, great, I'm getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm learning things, right? Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't, it wasn't really for me, right? And because of that, I quit my job. My mom was livid. She was pissed. Like back, this was in 2015
Yeah.
or 2016, where like, people were getting laid off, right? Left and right. And here I am at a
Mm-hmm.
commercial real estate company, and I still had my job getting, decently paid. I quit my job and I went to Taiwan, Taipei, Taiwan, to teach English for 12 US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Not for 8-hour shifts. It's like literally 12 US dollars. And I wanted to learn. So I speak Cantonese as my native language and English, but I
Right.
wanted to learn Mandarin as well. And so I went over to Taiwan and I taught English and learned Chinese, right?
Oh,
And I know it's weird because
yeah. It's
in their generation they're always like, you have a good paying job, right? Be fortunate, all this. And I was fortunate, but I
mhm.
wasn't happy. Like, there's a difference. You can be fortunate and not happy, but you can be happy and not fortunate, right? And you could be both, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was on that spectrum where I wasn't happy. But I guess the moral of the story here was that when I was in Taiwan making 12 bucks an hour inconsistently, I was one of the, like, I'm there's happiness comes in different forms and sizes, right? But that was a very, very happy time of my life, right?
Yeah.
I had a little bit more time to my schedule. I was teaching, and when you teach and after a long day, you don't feel like you're tired, at least for me. I feel like I was giving back something with my whole heart and
Mhm.
soul, and then I look back at it and I'm like, does it really matter if I'm an engineer, doctor, accountant, as long as I could provide for myself, put food on the table, save a little, and I'm not in debt? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely with you on that one. Like even when I'm coming home from work and I'm tutoring one of my students, it feels almost like a relief. Like I've been able to really it feels good. It's very hard to explain, but it really makes you feel like you've accomplished something and you've been able to help someone today.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a very like a heartwarming feeling that yes, I was able to help someone with their day as well.
Yeah. And here's my thing. Like, I think the bottom line is that when you focus on something that is your purpose and that you're passionate about, it doesn't even feel like work. And because it doesn't feel like work, you have that much more horsepower and torque to actually work towards something and break through and have it become something where it could be your own business. It could be something that you're actually doing. It could be something that, honestly, even if it's a 9 to 5 job and it's not your own business, you come back home feeling revived because it wasn't dreadful. So you have more time with your loved one, significant other, or even yourself, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no,
Mm,
100%. I'm with you on that one. And again, all of these things tie back to, again, how does it make you feel, right? Does it make you feel like there's a more positive outlook on your life? Do you feel happy? And when you genuinely feel happy with what you're doing, there's no stopping you. You'll
mm,
just keep doing it because that's what provides you with happiness. And
mm,
honestly, if it was in your case going to Taiwan and working for $12 an hour, then that's awesome because it makes you happy and you're more motivated to do that. And you feel great doing it. And for my case, if it was switching into the business, despite what my parents were doing it, that's awesome as well because it made you happy and you're pursuing your goals and you're pursuing goals that you actually want to pursue and passionate about. So
mm,
again, it all circles back to how does it make you feel and does it make you feel happy and are you passionate doing it? Is there a driving force behind what you're actually doing?
mm, mm. I guess to add to that as well, Omar, it's almost like, even if I tried something and it was my own decision and it didn't work out, and what does not working out mean, right? It could mean like,
Hmm.
oh, hey, I tried something out and I wasn't happy, but at least it was my own decision and I would own it, right? It's almost like that story I like to tell where or when I say I like to tell, it's really me just talking to myself. I'm crazy like that. And
Mhm.
so it's me telling myself that you have no one else to blame, right? You've tried something out, it didn't work, but then you feel satisfied that you tried it out. You wouldn't look back at yourself and be like, "Oh, you know what? That yes, you might self-reflect and be like, "You know what? That wasn't such a good idea, but
Mhm.
I made every second and minute of it." Right?
Right.
But I
Exactly.
I love being backed up where you have no excuse. You can't be like, "Oh, my mom told me to do this. Omar told me to do this," right? My sister told me to do this, right? Or a good friend.
Yeah.
Like you're basically looking at yourself at, the mirror, and it's just you and yourself, right? Making that
Exactly.
decision. And
Mhm.
so it's interesting. So Omar, before we, wrap up here a little, we got about 5 or 10 minutes. I want to ask you, a couple more questions. The last or the second last question here, I would say, is Omar, now you're in, you've got a lot of things going on. And I would imagine that, it's something that, you continuously pile on because you're trying to accomplish goals, things like that. What does your path look like in the next couple years? What are some of those goals that you're really trying to attain? Do you even set goals? I'm making the assumption that you do, since you're getting into these great companies, right? And you're not just paying them to hire you, right? And so and so, what's next on Omar Metwali's horizon?
Well, the most recent thing that's coming up on my horizon is I am going to the World um, Championship, I guess, or competition for the KPMG Ideation Challenge. I'm really
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to that. Just a brief bit of background on what it is. Essentially, computer science slash engineering students and business students come together to create an idea that can change the world. And that was something that I really found interesting. And when I applied, I've really just been putting so much time and energy into that and making sure that it can be the best we can before we get to finals. And
Mm-hmm.
really, I've just been pursuing that. And coming up in August, hopefully, I'll have some good news for you then. We
Yeah.
made it this far, so we can just push a little bit farther to get to the finish line. Past that, I guess some more long-term goals. I do want to go into public accounting for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning on going into the public world because I want to pursue my CPA and really become a more well-rounded accountant and try different fields of accounting, not only just industry. From there, I really want to utilize my CPA in a similar way that you're utilizing yours, where the one unique thing about accountants is that we're not just, number crunching, office people. We don't just live there every day. We actually can come up with pretty creative ideas that can change the world because what we've developed at our fingertips is really the language of business. We're able to take great ideas and develop them into such great businesses and really work on that and make legitimately huge impacts on people's lives. And being a part of evolution learning, I've seen how you've taken the concept of tutoring and transformed it into making it way bigger than that, making it so that you can help people overseas with your English program and help them become better English speakers. Or even here in Calgary, just being able to see that one-on-one tutoring sessions or those online tutoring sessions and do them in such creative and unique ways that I have really never seen being utilized by other places. So in terms of the 5-year goals, I do, eventually want to get my
Mm-hmm.
CPA, but from that point on, I'm really going to be thinking about how do I take my CPA and how do I take being an accountant and transform myself to help others and help my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's really awesome. And kudos, because it's, you know, a lot of the things you're saying, like, Omar, you're giving me shivers. And I'm not even paying you overtime for any of this, or I'm not even paying you at all to say any of this, but this is it's good to hear it for, it's good to hear it from you as well, just because, it's we're very fortunate to have you on the team. And I think having you on the team has, changed a lot of, what we do, why we do it, who we do it for, because when, we look for people, at least joining Evolution Learning, it's really about the same mindset, right? What are we in it for? We're in it for the next generation that's really coming up, and how can we serve them, right?
Right.
How can we allow them to have the things that we quite frankly never had, right? And so that's part of it as well. And, to hear your story about, accounting and, public accounting, I totally get it, right? We've all been there. And sometimes, we get the stereotype that we're not the most creative. I actually sometimes agree with that. I'm not the most creative, but it's trial and error. Like, I'll try 10 things to find out I hate all 10 of them. And the 11th thing comes up and it's like, oh, wow, I kind of like this one.
Yeah.
And so, I think for me, it's like, there's no shortcut, right? And so that's good. Final question for you, Omar. Everyone's got their own definition of success. And so success for Omar Metwali, what does that mean for you? What is your definition of success?
I think my definition of success really boils down to one thing. It really boils down to how much time did I put into achieving my goal. And again, with time, when you put in the time and the effort to make a change or to succeed in something, you're really learning along the way. And with that definition of success, it's really a two-parter where you've accomplished your goal, but you've also learned getting to your goal and understanding how you got there. And that's how you succeed, by understanding what you've done and the mistakes you've made along the way. And from doing that, actually being to get there and utilize, the progress you've done to achieve success is how I define it. Define it as putting in the time, the effort, learning from your mistakes, and just improving yourself continuously until you pass that goal and then achieve more. And from there, you'll see yourself building more success and more success and more success.
It's about the journey, not the destination. Omar Metwali, this is very, very awesome. I want to take the time to very much thank you for all the insights that you've shared, all the good conversations that you've had as well. And obviously, as I've said many times before, at Evolution Learning, we're super happy that you're actually part of our team. The amount and level of commitment that you give, not only to us, but it's really the students and the parents that are really benefiting from this. We couldn't thank you we couldn't thank you more. And so, Omar, thank you again for your time today. And this was really, really an awesome episode. And I'm really happy to have you on here.
Again, thank you so much for having me on your team. It's been a pleasure being here for about a year now, actually, a year and a little bit, but I've had so much fun with the team and I've learned so much along the way, and truly I'm really fortunate to be on your team. And again, thank you for having me on your podcast. This was a really awesome experience.
Hey, we're stronger when together. All right, Omar? So thank you so much. All right. Until next time. Okay.
Until next time. Thank you so much.
Take care, buddy.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode on the Evolution Learning Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like and share this episode with your network or subscribe to the channel. You can also find out more about us on www.evolutionlearning.org. See you in our next episode, and until next time, take care of yourself and each other.